Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 7, Grand Tutor. Grand Tutor Qi was dumbstruck as he pulled his hands back. He turned his head away so he didn't have to look at Shen Zequan. He had been imprisoned in this place for the past 20 years, slowly going mad and hating everyone outside. Yet, tonight, he had to persuade himself not to hate the son of his enemy. Then, Grand Tutor Qi's voice sounded bitter. Then, who can I kill now? The snow fell silently, and the crow in the courtyard flew away from the branch. The tattered curtain in the temple fluttered along with the wind. Grand Tutor Qi trembled as he rose to his feet, then he staggered with his arms raised high, devastated and inconsolable. The dust has settled. History belongs to the victor. His Highness's virtuous name has been smeared, and you and I are reduced to traitors and renegades. Who do I kill? Can I kill the sightless and imbecile heavens? 20 years ago, His Highness's blood was spilled here. What have we done wrong that the Emperor just had to persecute us to the very gates of hell? Tears poured down Grand Tutor Qi's face. His body trembled as he kneeled at the entrance of the hall and banged his head repeatedly on the floor. Kill me now as well. The snowy night was miserably cold as his cry echoed within the barren ruin of the temple. No one answered him. Crouched like that, Grand Tutor Qi mirrored the deteriorating Buddha statue behind him. Fragments of cotton like snow covered him as he remained still and silent under this brilliantly illuminated night in Chu capital. An hour later, Ji Gang helped Grand Tutor Qi up, and the three men sat in a circle before the incense altar. Many things happened tonight because of me. I will take this opportunity and explain to my heart's content. Ji Gang lifted his sleeves and said, Grand Tutor Qi, Chuan Heir was born in the Shen clan. He's Shen Wei's eighth son of common birth. 8 years ago, the situation between the legitimate and common factions in the Prince of Jiangxing's residence were as irreconcilable as fire and water. Shen Zhuji, the heir apparent of the Prince of Jiangxing, won the favor of his father and drove out his illegitimate brothers out of the prince's estates. At 7 years of age, Chuan Heir was sent back to Duan province, but his enlistment as a soldier to bolster the army numbers failed to work out. So, he lived in the side courtyard to be raised by his mother's maid. But that woman was greedy and extravagant and often misappropriated the child's food rations. Pingting was on friendly terms with his mother. When she learned of this, she asked me to take Chuan Heir back so that we could raise and nurture him. Grand Tutor Qi sneered and said, Shen Wei himself was a son from the concubine and had his share of injustices in his childhood. How ludicrous of him to favor those of legitimate birth when he came to have sons later. What's more, he's such a lecher and went on to beget so many sons. What a sin. We have repeatedly sent letters to the prince's residence, but not once has Shen Wei ever replied. Grand Tutor, look at the 8 great families in Chu capital. We have never heard of such blatant abandonment even amongst the son of common births of those clans. Ji Gang furrowed his eyebrows. And so it was like this that Chuan Heir came to follow us. That time, Mu Heir was 15 years of age. He was so delighted to have a younger brother. Since then, our family of 4 has settled down in Duan province. We even had to expend a lot of effort just to be able to get into the military service's yellow register. Grand Tutor Qi was silent for a moment, then he said, having left the capital with a criminal record, it's naturally difficult for your household to be registered in the legal census. It was precisely to suppress rebels and prevent civil unrest that His Royal Highness strictly enforced the yellow register system to record households back then. Ji Gang said, I understand. Grand Tutor, what happened in Chu capital after I left? How did His Royal Highness the Crown Prince end up in that state? Grand Tutor Qi pulled over the tattered curtain and wrapped it around his shoulders. He said gloomily. After you left, Ji Wufen lost the confidence of the Emperor. Pan Rugui, having received the Emperor's favors for serving the Empress, took up the post of brush-holding director at the Directorate of Ceremonies. As a result, the Jin Yue fell into decline, and its 12 offices existed in name only. After Ji Wuifen's death, Ji Lei took up the mantle alone. From then on, the Eastern Depot became the godfather of the Jinyi Wei and ceased to associate with the Eastern Palace. Later on, the emperor suddenly fell ill and was frequently bedridden, so the trivial affairs of the court were handed over to his cabinet and the Eastern Palace to manage. However, the Hua clan took advantage of the empress's influence over His Majesty to install many incompetent people in the court, and this led to the resurgence of corruption within the 6 ministries. Interference from the imperial in-laws became a true plague in court. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince submitted memorials one after another to appeal on this matter, but Pan Rugui abused his role as His Majesty's transcriber to take over control of government affairs with the Empress. None of His Highness memorials ever made their way to the Emperor. Not only that, after the Emperor fell ill, the Empress stopped both the ministers and the Eastern Palace from paying their respects to him. Those castrated bunches are a menace to the empire. Ji Gang repeatedly sighed. If I had known that Pan Rugui harbored such ambitions, I would never have stopped father from killing him. Even if you kill a Pan Rugui, there will still be a Pan Ruxi and a Pan Ruyi. Grand Tutor said in a daze. The inner palace interferes in state affairs, while their kin run rampant. Ji Gang, you don't understand. These are all the deeply rooted maladies of the 8 great clans. As long as all the 8 great clans are not eradicated, history will just repeat itself. How does the Empress able to control the affairs of the imperial court when she has lived for so long in the inner palace? It's all due to the long amassed power and influence of the Hua clan. Even if the Empress wasn't a Hua back then, if the Empress was someone from one of the other 8 great clans, this would still happen. But Shenzhequan could not help asking, isn't His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of legitimate birth by the Empress herself? No. Grand Tutor Qi lowered his head. His Royal Highness's biological mother was an imperial concubine. The Empress bore no child of her own. But His Royal Highness was taken to the inner palace and personally raised by the Empress herself. As the saying goes, even a tiger will not eat its own cubs, but in the imperial family, kinship doesn't exist. The hall fell silent again. Ji Gang let out a breath of cold air and said in a hoarse voice, my father lost the favor of the emperor because of my excessive drinking. If it had not been for that, His Royal Highness would never have been driven into such a predicament. I had assumed that Ji Lei would not turn against us on account of yourself and Ji Wuifen. Grand Tutor Qi clutched at the tattered curtain. Remembering it still left a bitter taste in his mouth. Who would have known that he? Grand Tutor did not know it then. Ji Gang looked at Shenzhequan. The same way that Chuan didn't know things either. My father, Ji Wuifen, was sworn friends with the former emperor. He was also the commander-in-chief of the Jinyi Wei. But father's first wife died early and he had no intention to remarry, so he adopted 3 sons. Besides me and Ji Lei, there was also eldest brother. Eldest brother disdained the darker sides of the imperial prison and left Chu capital in his teenage years and joined the troops at Tianfei Gate. Ji Lei and I served in the Jinyi Wei and remained by father's side to look after him as a show of filial piety. Father taught us the Ji family fist style and the Ji family swordmanship. Later on, for various reasons, our father believed that Ji Lei has lost his way and was becoming a grasping sycophant. So, he only imparted the Ji clan's mental cultivation techniques to me. However, this created a divide between us brothers. After father's death, Ji Lei did an overhaul of those under his command. Many of the old guards were let go. From then on, the Jinyi Wei were no longer what they once were. Grand Tutor Qi murmured, such is fate. The Eastern Palace's subordinates joined forces and worked as one but still failed to protect His Royal Highness. The Emperor suspected His Royal Highness of plotting a rebellion, but the authority on the 8 battalions was within the 8 great clans in Chu capital, all of whom were in cohorts with the Empress. When the Jinyi Wei found documents pertaining to the rebellion plot, they asserted that it was His Royal Highness who was behind it. Our people were sent to the imperial prison, and many of them died. Those who could not withstand the punishments finally gave in. The sick emperor flew into a rage and believed Pan Ragui's lies. From then on, His Royal Highness was trapped in a dead corner. Tears drenched his face as he seemed to go insane again. His Royal Highness was here, trapped in a dead corner. Why didn't they kill me? How do they expect me to hang on to my last breath till now? Living a life like this is worse than death. Yet I still linger on. He suddenly stared at Shen Zequin, and his tone turned manic. I can't take this lying down. Years of strategic and tactical planning have all gone down the drain. Countless Eastern Palace's aides have been killed and wounded, and the injustice His Royal Highness suffered has yet to be addressed. I can't take this lying down. He grabbed Shen Zequin's arm again. You are so young. You still have a chance. Grand Tutor, Ji Gang rose intending to stop him. You can protect him for a moment, but can you protect him for life? Grand Tutor Qi gripped Shen Zequin tightly. I can stop hating or blaming him today on account of your fatherly affection, but can you make everyone in this world think this way? As long as his surname is Shen, there will be plenty of people who would want to kill him. Can he really sleep with peace of mind just because he is skilled in martial arts? Ji Gang, your father was a martial arts master, but didn't he still end up dying of illness all alone? In this Chu capital, where the tides of power ebb and flow, it's killing someone with invisible means that's the most fatal. How could you have the heart to let him face the predators stark naked? Ji Gang clenched his fists and said nothing. Tugging Shen Zequin, Grand Mentor Qi went down on both knees. He looked at Shen Zequin and said in a trembling voice that was choking with sobs, I'm Qi Huilian from Yu province. You don't know me, so I'm telling you. I'm the Triple UN top scholar in the 15th year of the Yanji era. From the founding of the Great Zhou to this date, there are only 5 people who have come out first in all 3 levels of the civil examination. I'm a subordinate of the Eastern Palace and also the Minister of Personnel of the Ministry of Personnel, in addition to being the Deputy Grand Secretary of the Grand Secretariat. I taught the Crown Prince. And I'll now teach you. I'll teach you everything I have learned in my life, all right. Shen Zequin stared into Grand Tutor Qi's eyes. He was unusually calm. After that brief silence, he fell to the ground on his knees with a thud and kowtowed thrice to Grand Tutor Qi. If teacher imparts the classics to me, I'll kill your enemy for you. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Ji Qingqing went out at the hour of Mao and headed for the Temple of Penitence. The air was clear and cold along the way, and it even snowed. He huffed into his hands and looked for a steamed bun stall as he walked. He heard the sounds of someone calling him from afar. There was a red silk umbrella unfurled among the snow, and the person under the umbrella swayed slightly as he moved towards him. Those who could hold up red silk umbrellas in Chu capital were all notable people holding 5th rank and above. Ji Qingqing stood by the side of the road and supported his blade as he paid his obeisances. The thick smell of wine assailed his nose as the person staggered his way before him. The Red Cavalry. This person stopped and reached out a hand to pull Ji Qingqing's authority token. He looked at it for a moment and said, Where is Company Commander Ji going now? It's freezing cold. Ji Qingqing stared at the man's black boots and answered, replying to Your Excellency, this humble subordinate is on duty today and ought to be heading for the palace. Xiao Qiye had been drinking all night, and his clothes were in disarray. He dangled the authority token and said, This doesn't seem to be the way to the palace. Ji Qingqing raised his head to reveal a shy smile and said, The second young master Xiao is noble and does not know how much of a clutter these civilian alleyways are. From here, you can make your way through a few civilian alleys and you'll be able to turn into Xinwu Street, which will lead you straight to the palace gate. Upon hearing this, Xiao Qiye smiled and threw back the authority token to him. He asked, You know who I am? Ji Qingqing caught hold of the authority token and flattered him, The armored cavalry of Liege are brave and skillful in warfare. The Honorable Xiao Shisui and the second young master Xiao have rendered meritorious service in coming to the Emperor's aid. Who in the Chu capital does not know of you? Second young master Xiao, are you heading back to your residence? The road is slippery. May this subordinate be so bold as to ask if you need me to send you back. Xiao Qiye looked at him and said, do I look like a drunkard? You may leave. Qing bowed again and left. When Zhao Hui arrived, he saw Xiao Qiye rapping hard with the red silk umbrella and yelling at the steamed bun stall to hurry. He approached and said, the residence has prepared breakfast. Why is young master standing here to have your meal? Xiao Qiye said, I'm too hungry to walk back. Zhao Hui shook the cloak open and said, wine and lust will only lead you astray. Young master, let's go home. Xiao Qiye draped himself with the cloak but did not move his feet. He ate 2 steamed buns, taking no notice of the gazes of those around him. He asked Zhao Hui, can one reach Xinwu Street from here? Yes, but it's not an easy path to walk. Zhao Hui replied. Civilian alleys with state-owned ditches. The narrower the alley, the more polluted the ditch water. The public ditches in the Chu capital has never been repaired in recent years, and this piece of land is rotten beyond recognition. Once the weather warms up, the snow melts and the rain falls, the sewage will flood the streets. Think about it, is such a path a smooth one to take? Xiao Qiye said, I only asked you one question. Why give such a long reply? Zhao Hui said, what I'm saying is that you must be sure to take the correct path. Young master, there's no hurry to drink. If you take a detour instead, you will make your way there even faster. Xiao Qiye wiped his hands and motioned for Zhao Hui to fish out his money. That's really strange. Go make some inquiries if there are any official records of someone called Qing on duty in the 12's offices of the Jinyi Wei today. Old man, find another line of work as soon as you can, this steamed bun tastes really bad. End chapter. Note: 1 Eastern Depot is a spy and secret police agency that was run by eunuchs during the Ming dynasty. It is separate and of equal authority with the Jinyi Wei. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 8, Suspicion. The Imperial Army was waiting to rotate shifts. It was so freezing cold that they were all huddled into themselves. The Imperial Army of the Chu capital was originally the Imperial Guards of the 8 cities. They were the impregnable fortress of the Imperial Palace in the Chu capital. Originally, trivial duties such as taking a person into custody would not have been one of their duties, but then the 8 great training divisions of the Chu capital rose to power, and the duties and responsibilities of both parties were switched around. The Imperial Army was reduced to being the burden of the Chu capital. Not only do they no longer perform military drills, but they even literally became the errand runner of the Chu capital. The current Imperial Army were descendants of those military households who had never seen real weaponry and were just idling around waiting to die. Qing was a company commander of the Jinyi Wei. He was not really considered an official in the Chu capital, but he was just perfect for the Imperial Army as he was in charge of detention. This was because they had to mutually look out for each other as they patrolled the Chu capital every day. If it had been an official of a slightly higher rank, they would not have dared to bribe as they wished. Besides, Qing was extremely generous in his treatment of them. So, the Imperial Army turned a blind eye and let Ji Gang take on the chores of the original errand runner. Qing greeted the Imperial Army and distributed the hot steamed buns he had brought with him. Ji Gang had yet to come out. The squad commander saw him looking pensive, so he said, "If Brother Qing is in a hurry, please go ahead and check it out on our behalf." Qing said, "Wouldn't that be against the rules?" Biting the steamed bun, the squad commander waved his hand to motion to the Imperial Army guarding the back door to make way. He said, "Brother Qing isn't an outsider. Besides, we have surrounded this temple of penitence until not even a drop of water can trickle through. Surely, the man within won't be able to escape." Thus, Qiang did not decline his offer further. He turned around to enter the temple of penitence. Ji Gang was sitting under the eaves. When he saw Qiang coming, he stood up and asked, "Is it time already?" "It doesn't matter since it's still dark. Uncle Ji can stay a little longer." Qiang surveyed the temple courtyard as he spoke. "This place is not fit for human living. And it happens to be in the dead of winter right now. I'll send some quilts over later." Noting that he seemed to have something on his mind, Ji Gang asked, "What's the matter?" Qiang hesitated and said, "It's not a big deal. It's just that I met second young master Xiao on the way earlier." Shenzhequan raised his head and said, "That's Xiao." "Xiao Qi yet?" Qiang said, "He's the youngest son of the Prince of Liege. He's also, that same man from the other time. His gait is unsteady, and he reeks of wine. He must have gone drinking last night. As long as it isn't Xiao Jiming." Ji Gang turned his head back to say to Grand Tutor Qi, "Grand Tutor has not left this place for 20 years. You probably don't know the current 4 great generals of the Great Zhou. The Prince of Liege has begotten himself a good son. That Xiao Jiming is truly remarkable." But Shenzhequan asked Qiang, "Brother Qing, did he ask you something?" Qiang thought carefully and said, "He asked me where I was going, and I said I was taking a shortcut to get to the command office. Then he said that this road did not seem to lead to Xinwu Street. So, I gave him a perfunctory response. I suppose the descendant of a princely noble like him will not personally probe into it. But this matter involves the Xiao clan. It pays to be careful. Later on, you should still head for the palace and put a mark on the duty roster." Ji Gang rubbed his hands in the snow. "Chew on air, let's train." "Hold it." Shenzhequan's eyes were dark and deep. "Since it is a miscellaneous alley in a civilian district, then what is a noble descendant like him doing on this street so early in the morning?" Qiang was stupefied. He said, "That's right. The entertainment areas are all in Donglong Street, which is some distance away from the residential area. He's nursing a hangover and it's such a cold day. Why did he come here? He's keeping watch at a tree to await a rabbit." Grand Tutor Qi wrapped himself in the tattered curtain and turned around, pointing his posterior out. He said, "The matter of Shenwei concerns the Xiao clan. I heard that this kick of his was clearly aiming for this lad's life. But the lad's still alive and well now. How could he not get suspicious? He shouldn't have said another word if he didn't mean it." Shenzhequan was still full of trepidation as he recalled that kick. "Oh, no." Qiang turned pale and said, "It's my fault for being negligent. What should we do?" "I'm afraid he's already on the way." Shenzhequan turned towards Grand Tutor Qi. "It doesn't matter. Since teacher has already guessed it, he must have a countermeasure. ******. Zhao Hui arrived at the Jinyue command office. Although the assistant commander walking with him was of the same rank as him, he did not dare to put on airs. He led Zhao Hui to the records room and said, "What does General Zhao want to check?" "These are all 12's office's duty rosters for today." Zhao Hui solemnly picked up a book to flip through for a look and said, "It has been hard on our Jinyue brothers patrolling the restricted grounds. A few days ago, I received the assistance of a company commander named Qiang. I've come today bearing a gift to give my thanks. Is he on duty today?" The company commanders from the 12's office are a motley crew. They are all inside. As the assistant commander spoke, he shifted over to the wall where the duty registers of the 12 offices were hanging on the upper side, all clearly categorized. But Zhao Hui could not touch them, this was taboo in the palace. The assistant commander asked, "Does the general know which office does he belong to?" Zhao Hui said, "I heard that only those from the Imperial Carriage Office, Parasol Office, and the Domesticated Elephants Office could be on duty on the morning shift." The assistant commander carefully checked through the registers by name. After a while, he turned and said to Zhao Hui, "General, there's no such person on duty today. Let me try looking elsewhere for you." Zhao Hui gently closed the book in his hands and said, "There's no need. I'll find him on my own." When Zhao Hui left the records room, the sky had just brightened. He went back along the road and strode out of the palace. The accumulated snow had been freshly swept off Xinwu Street, but the road was slippery. The sedan bearers who came and went as they transported those in notable positions did not dare to be rash. They walked on the road cautiously and made every effort to stay steady on their feet. As Zhao Hui passed by a sedan, he caught a glimpse of the sedan bearers bearing broadswords. Who would have known that this one look would make him furrow his eyebrows? "Hold it." Zhao Hui stopped the sedan chair and asked, "Is this the chair used by the commander-in-chief?" Sure enough, the sedan bearers were Jin Yue. The one in the lead nodded and said, "You know who we are transporting, and you still have the audacity to block our way? Move out of the way quickly." Zhao Hui raised his hand to reveal his own Liege authority token. The Jin Yue nodded and said, "General, please excuse me for the offense." The sedan curtain moved as a slender hand lifted it. A delicate face glanced lazily at Zhao Hui and pouted coquettishly to the person within. "Your Excellency, he's looking for you." Ji Lei had just returned with a hangover. Sitting unreservedly in the sedan, he said to Zhao Hui, "General Zhao. What's the matter?" Zhao Hui merely stared at the Jin Yue in the lead and said, "It's nothing. I heard young master went drinking with your Excellency last night. Are you only just returning?" Ji Lei smiled and said, "So you're worried about the second young master?" "The young master returned home the moment I opened my eyes this morning. Is Xiao Shisui looking for him? I just can't help worrying." Zhao Hui bowed. "I'm sorry to have alarmed your Excellency." "It's fine. I just came from there myself." Ji Lei gestured with his hand. "Who was it that butt heads with the general earlier? Hurry and apologize to the general." The Jin Yue in the lead kneeled on one knee and said to Zhao Hui, "This humble servant, Qing, was blind not to recognize the general, thus offending you. This one is willing to accept punishment." Zhao Hui had not misread. Qing's name was indeed written on the authority token hanging at the side of his blade. ******. Even after listening to Zhao Hui complete his report, Xiao Qiye was still looking at the storytelling script with one of his legs propped up. Zhao Hui said, "From how it looks, he didn't lie. He was assigned to pick up Ji Lei before he could enter the palace." "Yeah." Xiao Qiye said absent-mindedly. "King Jun Pavilion is also nearby. Of course he can make it in time. But something feels off to me." Zhao Hui's thumb caressed the hilt of his blade. Xiao Qiye turned the page and asked, "And you can't figure it out?" "I can't." "Then I'll tell you." He suddenly sat up, crossed his legs, and propped up a hand on one knee. "You entered the capital with my eldest brother. His Majesty the Emperor personally met and welcomed him. The 12 offices of the Jin Yue followed closely behind in a ceremonial procession. How could he not recognize you now?" "That's hard to say." Zhao Hui said, "Perhaps he didn't remember me. You haven't even changed your robe and you carry a blade on you. Even if he doesn't recognize you, all he has to do is to use his brain a little, and he wouldn't dare to reproach you in such a condescending manner right there on the street." Xiao Qiye said, "Besides, he doesn't seem like he has a bad memory to me. He could even recognize me clearly. I only find it too much of a coincidence." Zhao Hui pondered over it. "I just happened to run into him. A coincidence is exactly what they want." Xiao Qiye cast aside the storytelling script. "This Shenzequan," Zhao Hui said. "Letting him enter Temple of Penitence now looks like a poor move." Xiao Qiye said with a thoughtful gaze. Qing removed the fur collar and wiped his sweat. "Wu Ka Equan, who was outside, came running in, pressing his legs together. He repeatedly said, "Thank you, thank you. Brother Qing, thank goodness for you." Qing said, "It's nothing. We are all comrades." Wu Kaiquan grinned and turned his head to yell at the person in the records room, "Old Su. Put Brother Qing on the record for today, he stood in for me to carry the sedan. I caught a cold last night and felt dizzy this morning. Fortunately, Brother Qing was there to help." Qing lowered his head to wipe his sweat. He said, "You caught a cold. Let's go to the Su household's shop for mutton soup together later." Wu Kaiquan hastened to say, "Sure, it's Brother Qing's treat." "Lao Su, did you hear that? Let's go together later. Don't sweat it." Qing patted Wu Kaiquan on the back. "Rest well. If you don't feel well the next time, don't hold it in like you did this time. Just tell me." Wu Kaiquan nodded his head like a puppy. He was craving mutton soup so much that he could hardly care about anything else. ******. Grand Tutor Qi was finally bundled up in a quilt at night. He sat opposite Shenzhen and said, "In another half a month, it'll be the Jinden festival. The Chu capital will host the banquet of 10,000 officials. When the time comes, all the provincial administration commissioners and prefectural surveillance commissioners of the various lands will enter the capital to offer their greetings. I'm still not clear about the current state of affairs, so tell me now." Shenzhen was in the snow, dressed only in flimsy clothes as he struck up the starting stance of the Ji clan fist. Despite it, sweat was dripping off his forehead as he spoke. "The Prince of Liege has been in poor health for many years, and all military affairs have been handed over to his heir apparent, Xiao Jiming, to handle on his behalf. In all likelihood, he won't attend this time. The Qidong 5 commanderies have rendered meritorious service in coming to the emperor's rescue. The first one who came to receive his bestowed title was one of the 4 generals, Lu Guangbai. Commander-in-Chief Qi should be arriving within these few days. With this, 2 major military powers of the Great Zhou will be temporarily residing." "Hold it." Grand Tutor Qi fished out a ruler from his quilt and asked, "Which 4 generals are the 4 generals?" "Glacier armored cavalry, Xiao Jiming, fire beacon amidst blowing sand, Lu Guangbai, wind guiding the scorching plains, Qi Zuyan, thunder rumbles the jade stage, Zouqian Kaiu." "I have only heard about Zouqian Kaiu. But I know that Lu Guangbai is most likely the son of the Earl of Bianxia, Lu Pinjian. Although Lu Pinjian later came to guard the deserts of the Bianjun Commandery, he was from Liege in his early years. He's sworn brothers with the Prince of Liege, Xiao Fangxiu. If this Lu Guangbai has a sister, she would definitely be the Xiao clan's daughter-in-law, am I right?" "Yes," Shenzhen said as he dripped with sweat. "Lu Guangbai's younger sister is the princess consort of the Prince of Liege's heir apparent. So, where did the 2 major military powers come from?" Grand Tutor Qi said, "With this connection, the Lu clan is the mole Liege planted in the Qidong 5 commanderies to lurk within. Furthermore, there's still the 8 great training divisions in Chu capital, and the imperial army under the 8 great training divisions. The 8 great training divisions don't have as many people as those from Liege and Qidong, and its reputation is not as valiant as theirs either. But you must remember that Chu capital is the heart of the Great Zhou. What they are holding in their hands is the emperor's life." Grand Tutor Qi weighed the ruler in his hand, then grabbed the gourd and warmed himself with a few sips of wine. "You also must remember this. Although the Jin Yi cannot be called soldiers, their advantage is far greater than that of a normal soldier. When the emperor commands the troops, he must be assisted by influential officials and valiant generals. A general should exercise good discretion on the battlefield and not be bound by orders of his sovereign. Keep a tight rein and it'd be hard for them to make something of themselves. Maintain a loose grip, and you'll soon suspect them of becoming too much of a tiger. This yardstick is difficult to grasp. You need to act in accordance with the situation and understand how to adapt to changes. However, the Jinyi Wei is a different matter altogether. They are the vicious hounds under the emperor's command, and that chain is held by the emperor alone. Whether to tighten or loosen his grip, or to pamper or discard them, wholly depends on the emperor's moods. Such a blade, such a dog, if it were you, would you like them, or would you not? Shenzhen pushed himself to hang on for a moment, and then he said, like them and they will go wayward. Favor and trust them too much, and they will become the source of calamity. Your brother sure has taught you plenty. Grand Tutor Qi said, that's right. Remember it. Commit it to memory. Favor and trust them too much, and they will become the source of calamity. Keeping the virtuous close and the flatterers far is a good virtue to cultivate. But when you are personally involved, black and white will intersect. How will you be forever able to distinguish who are the virtuous talents and who are the crafty sycophants? Besides, there are many matters that even a virtuous gentleman cannot do, while the crafty and the despicable ones can. The emperor resides long-term in the imperial palace. He must understand the principle of checks and balances as well as listen to the voices of the various officials and ministers. As you can see, with the Jinyi Wei comes the Eastern Depot, and with Liege comes along Qidong. After a pause, Grand Tutor Qi continued. Water brims only to overflow, the moon waxes only to wane. Do you know why the Xiao clan hates Shenwei so much this time? Not only is there nothing else to bestow or confer them with after this battle, but even if the Xiao clan fights another battle, their defeat is a defeat, while their victory is also fundamentally a defeat. They have already reached their end. Shenzhen asked, their victory is also a defeat. Their victory is also a defeat. Didn't Xiao Jiming instantly offer up his younger brother after winning the battle? For every battle he wins in the future, he will be in even more of a peril. This time he paid for it with his younger brother. Next time, it might be his wife, his father, or even his own self. End chapter. Note. Jinden Festival is also known as Spring Festival, which celebrates the start of the new year from the first day of the first month in the lunar calendar. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 9, Promotion. Since it's the end of the year, many of the pedestrians on the streets of the Chu capital wore head accessories made of black gold paper. As Jinden Festival approached, the common people strove to prepare pastries and cook meat at home. Meanwhile, the palace had started procuring the supplies for the banquet of 10,000 officials half a month in advance. Everyone from the court of imperial entertainments was busy running all over, yet the eunuchs still got to line their pockets. Xiao Qi rustled his way through the book and said, when those officials on the outside enter the capital, it is inevitable for them to have to pay ice respect to the officials in the capital. But Pan Rugui is so impressive that he drew up such a well-organized list, only when they shell out the money according to his list will they be left in peace. And these are only just the small changes at the beginning of the year. Lu Guangbai brushed aside the foam in his tea. Let me give you an account. The money the little eunuch under Pan Rugui receives in a year far exceeds the 2-year salary of a battalion commander guard at the frontier. The Great Zhou uses the military troops every year, and each time the Ministry of Revenue asks us to deploy the troops, they have to plead with us and coax us to do so. But after the battle is over, we become the bastards who demand our payments. It's the ones with the money who are the masters. Xiao Qi smiled and said. When we came to the emperor's rescue before the new year, our Liege troops braved the snow to march forward. The men and horses are tired, and the repairs for the armored cavalry's equipment need to be completed before the start of spring. We have owed the workshop money for too many days. Everything requires money. Zhao Hui carefully made the calculations in his mind and said, before we entered the Chu capital, the Liege troops engaged in farming duties converted the annual grain harvest into money. Every day, we have to count every cent and make every cent count. Our Xiao Shisui's princess consort does not even dare to purchase expensive attire for the residents during the New Year and other festivals. The money a palace eunuch like Pan Rugui has collected has already exceeded Duan province's total tax amount. The investigating censors throw their weight around when they are delegated to local governments. But so what? In the Chu capital, they don't even dare to let out a fart. What to do? We are poor. Lu Guangbai lamented, every year, we have to worry about money. Jiming made a trip to the capital this time, so the Ministry of Revenue did not dare to delay it on his account and had long submitted the request to the Grand Secretariat. Pan Rugui has also behaved himself and endorsed his approval. The funds should be handed over before he leaves the capital. We have eldest brother. Xiao Qi set aside the book and looked towards Lu Guangbai. But what are you going to do? His Majesty wouldn't see me. Lu Guangbai said, the Lu clan is unpopular in Chu capital. The 8 great clans have always regarded us as savages from the desert, and the Hua clan wouldn't even look us right in the eyes. But even if you tell me to show my respects to Pan Rugui, I don't have the money to. We are so poor at home we could barely put food on the table. Other places could cultivate lands for their troops to farm, and that is at least an emergency measure to meet their needs. But our Bayanjun commandery has just yellow sand for miles around. Even if we want to farm, we don't have the fields. This time, we dispatched the troops out on a swift expedition, and all the food for the men and horses during the journey were paid for with Commander-in-Chief Qi's personal savings. To put it bluntly, it was all thanks to Commander-in-Chief Qi's understanding and sympathy. Otherwise, my troops would have never made it past Tianfei Watchtower. But how much money would Commander-in-Chief Qi have? She's using the remnants of her own dowry that the old imperial consort has left for her. Her own private troops are almost on the verge of selling their own pants. The Ministry of Revenue keeps playing Taiji with me every day. Dereliction of duty, huh? They keep pushing my account aside and refuse to allocate the funds to me, figuring that a country bumpkin like me could do nothing about them. Lu Guangbai lost his temper in a rare display of anger. He could not help it. The Bayanjun commandery was defending along the borders of the desert, and they were the garrison troops that had the most dealings with the Bayancha cavalry other than Liege. They worked themselves to death all year round, running all over the place just to eke out a living under the blades of the machetes. They barely had sufficient sleep, and would never get to eat their fill. The Chu capital was oppressing him, and the Earl of Bayancha had long become a well-known pauper among the princes. His clan had never even kept any of the rewards bestowed to them. All of it had been converted into money and used to supplement military supplies. Once Xiao Jiming was neatly dressed, the maidservants left in a single file, leaving only the 4 of them in the room. Xiao Jiming held up the teacup and took a sip of his tea. He said unhurriedly, the timing is good this year, Zhendan banquet of 10,000 officials. Qi Ziyan should be here already, right? Lu Guangbai said, that's right. I was originally worried, but on second thought, let them do as they please and drag this matter on. If they delay it until the commander-in-chief enters the capital, well then, good luck to them. Xiao Jiming said, she is now the most popular in the Chu capital. Even those local ruffians and hooligans that are the loan sharks in Chu capital have to give her face. The previous debt can be repaid, but you can't always rely on her alone. The Bayanjun commandery is important. From what I've heard of the situation yesterday, the Ministry of Revenue will be asking you to recruit soldiers again this year. Lu Guangbai caressed the rim of the teacup and said, recruit? Don't even think about it. They are all afraid of death now that something happened to the 6 prefectures of Zongbo. They are concerned about the Bayanjun commandery getting stabbed by the Bayancha 12 tribes, and they even feel that my 20,000 troops and horses aren't enough. The thing is that we can recruit the soldiers, but do we have the money to pay them? I can't afford to feed and train them. I will not do it even if they hold up a blade to my neck this year. Xiao Qi suddenly sat upright and said, that's right. In the past, the Ministry of Revenue was the quickest when it comes to assigning military funds and rations to the 6 prefectures of Zongbo. The men died this time, so we can leave aside the issue of the money. But where are the grains? The Bianchi cavalry can't carry away that much grain with them when they flee. The remaining 3 men looked at him. Lu Guangbai said, "Silly lad, you can stop wondering about that. The grain was recovered and used to make up for the salary arrears owed to the 13 cities of Juexi last year. Can't you guess the reason the Ministry of Revenue dodged the issue? In recent years, the 8 great clans have become the 8 great training divisions, and their equipment and budgets are the best in the Great Zhou. All this money is taken right from the tax funds. Think about it, the sum of 2 million. Any human would know how insane this account is." But both the Empress Dowager and Secretariat Elder Hua did not pursue this matter. So who in the Ministry of Revenue would dare to bring it up? The state treasury is emptied of this portion of the money. Last year, the 13 cities of Juexi were hit by a plague of locusts, and there was truly not a single grain harvested that year. So, where would they get the money for disaster relief? It was all thanks to the Provincial Administration Commissioner, Zhang Qingshan, who issued a peremptory order for all the officials of various ranks within the prefecture to release their private stock of grains to help the disaster victims. Because of this, Zhang Qingshan saved hundreds of thousands of commoners, but he ended up being hated by the various officials in Juexi. Before the new year, I heard that the debt collectors were even blocking the entrance to his house. He is a high-ranking provincial official of the 2nd rank, and yet his 80-years-old mother still has to weave to pay off their debt. It would be forcing them to their death if the Chu capital still did not release the money. In the end, Secretariat Elder Hai submitted a memorial and contended with the Grand Secretariat and Pan Rugui for half a month before they barely made up for the shortfall. Zhao Hui could not help but say, "Those people say they are poor, but the amounts of bribe money are all large sums. On the other hand, those doing the real work are all walking on eggshells while tightening their belts. We might as well not come to the Chu capital this time." It really makes one disheartened. It was snowing outside the house, but there was no festive atmosphere inside it. The mess kept piling up one after another, and all the new sights in the Chu capital were like mist skimming the surface. Its wound had yet to heal, and yet they still had to cover it up even as pus dirted its entire grounds. The snow came at just the right time to conceal it all so beautifully that they could pretend not to notice. Everyone could all live like a drunk in this fool's paradise together. ******. In the middle of the night, Pan Rugui sat on the couch with his eyes closed. The naturally colored paper flower was placed by his hands so that he could wipe his hands after meditation. Xiao Fusui did not even dare to breathe heavily as he held a brush case in his hands and waited carefully on the footrest. After an hour, Pan Rugui exhaled and opened his eyes. Xiao Fusui immediately presented the brush to him. With a frown of concentration, Pan Rugui wrote a few words in his palm. Xiao Fusui flattered to him and said, "Forefather is becoming more and more sagely after having recently received His Majesty's teachings." Earlier, this grandson even saw a faint wisp of purple cloud rising. Pan Rugui wiped his hands and asked, "Do you know why you have never been able to join the Directorate of Ceremonies?" Xiao Fusui replied, "Forefather dotes on me." "It's one thing to dote on you." Pan Rugui threw the paper flower into Xiao Fusui's bosom. "Not being able to read the situation is another. His Majesty has been enlightened for 2 years and he still doesn't give off purple aura. I'm merely a slave. How can I ascend first? Isn't that overstepping my boundaries?" Xiao Fusui handed the hot tea over to Pan Rugui. He smiled ingratiatingly and said, "Forefather is my master, and so Forefather is my heaven. Seeing Forefather meditating is just like seeing the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord descending to the mortal world. How on earth would I give it that much thought?" Pan Rugui rinsed his mouth. This filial piety of yours could be called a skill in itself. Xiao Fusui let out a hee-hee as he moved close to Pan Rugui's leg and said, "I have to show my filial respect to Forefather since it's the Jindan festival. While I was procuring for the festival before the new year, I saw a stunning beauty in Prince Chu's manner. I made some inquiries around. His Majesty can't use her anyway, so it's of utmost importance for me to give her to you as a show of my filial piety instead. Pan Rugui said, how stunning is she? Can she compare to the third miss? Furthermore, isn't that Prince Chu's woman? Given that overbearing and domineering temper of his, I'm afraid he won't let her go that easily. Xiao Fusui said, no matter how noble Prince Chu is, he can't be even nobler than His Majesty, can he? His Majesty didn't even say anything, so isn't it only right for me to present her to forefather? Besides, you don't have to worry about this matter. I assure you that all the proper arrangements will be made before the beginning of spring. It'll be her good fortune when the time comes for you to lay your eyes on her regardless of whether or not you accept her. Pan Rugui set aside the teacup and said, there's no hurry. I'm not an avaricious or a lecherous man. Since you brought up Prince Chu, then how is the one who has the same temper as him, Mr. Muddling Along Second Young Master Xiao, doing lately? Xiao Fusui pounded Pan Rugui's thigh in a massage and said, "Heh. Forefather, this second young Master Xiao is really a legend. From the first night since he came to the capital, he has been out drinking with the others. He has never done any serious work except to drink and make merry. Prince Chu and that group of his all like to have fun with him. Birds of a feather truly flock together. That's fine, but he is still a member of the Xiao clan after all. His Majesty placed him in the Imperial Regalia service, which is too close for comfort. It makes me uneasy." Pan Rugui thought about it for a moment, then suddenly he smiled and said, "I have thought of just the perfect place to send him away to. Put on my shoes. I'm going to Mingli Hall to serve His Majesty." ******. It was the Jinden Festival's banquet of 10,000 officials the next day. There was nothing much going on during the feast, and just as the banquet was about to break up, they all heard Emperor Xian say, "Ah yeah, has it been comfortable for you in the Chu capital these days?" Xiao Qiye stopped peeling the tangerine and answered, replying to Your Majesty, "It's comfortable." Emperor Xian turned towards Xiao Jiming and said, "I've been thinking about it. Putting Aya in the Imperial Regalia service is a waste of his talent. He's a good child who has been on the battlefield. Keeping him before me is too much of an injustice for him. How about this? Let Aya go to the Imperial Army. The Imperial Army Viceroy used to be Shiguan, but he now has the 8 great training divisions to manage. He is really up to his ears in work. Let Aya take his place." Right at once, Lu Guangbai frowned. At the very least, the Imperial Regalia service would be on duty before the Emperor. If anything were to happen, His Majesty could not turn a blind eye to it. But what good was the Imperial Army? The Imperial Army was now the errand runners of the Chu capital. Was this a reward? How could this even be considered a reward? Lu Guangbai was about to rise to his feet when he saw that Xiao Qiye had already bowed his thanks. A viceroy sounds imposing, just like a commander-in-chief. Xiao Qiye smiled frivolously and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Secretariat Elder Hua laughed out loud and said, "His Majesty is wise. Xiao Shisui, here's a young hero in the making." The sounds of congratulations rose and fell like the tide during the banquet. Xiao Jiming smiled and said nothing as he looked at Xiao Qiye. Lu Guangbai drank the wine and lowered his head to say to Zhao Hui at the side, "Such an arrangement is clearly a death sentence aimed at Jiming's heart." After the banquet broke up, Xiao Qiye disappeared without a trace. His rowdy bunch of friends wanted to congratulate him on his promotion. So, he took them drinking. When they re-emerged at midnight after drinking, they were all staggering on their feet. Prince Chu, Liege Unhung, was a few years older than Xiao Qiye. He was a true scoundrel. Before getting into the sedan chair, he even tugged at Xiao Qiye's sleeve and said in a drunken stupor, "How capable of you! The Imperial Army, huh? You need not bother about patrols or defenses. It's a very idle job and yet you still get to collect a salary. You get the money and you don't have to put your life on the line. All the best things in the world have fallen into your lap. You must be secretly smug. Xiao Qiye smiled too, it was even a wicked smile. He said, "That's right. That's why I lose no time in inviting you for a drink. Together in the future, we'll run amok in the Chu capital." "Right, right." Liege Unhung patted Xiao Qiye vigorously on his shoulder. "That's the spirit. Come to my residence a few days later. I'll get them to celebrate for you again." Xiao Qiye watched the sedan move away into the distance and flipped atop his horse. He had personally trained and tamed his horse, which was an offspring of wild horses at the foot of the Hanjian mountain ranges. It was a swift and brave divine steed that was black all over except for a patch of white on its chest. Xiao Qiye clapped his horse forward. The stores on both sides of the street were about to light the lanterns to send him off. He raised his hand and said, "Put them out. Don't light them up." The store's attendants looked at each other, but they did not dare to disobey him. The lanterns went out one by one until there was only the dim glow of the frosty moon and icy snow on the road. Xiao Qiye whistled and the gerfalcon swooped down from the darkness of the night amid the whistling of the wind. He then hit the horse to spur it on. The steed under his saddle snorted out a puff of hot air and broke into a sudden dash. The strong wind launched a frenzied assault against Xiao Qiye, dissipating the hot flushes he had from drinking. In the darkness, he looked like a cornered beast on a rampage. The sounds of hooves became the massive crashes of collisions. He galloped through the deserted streets. The darkness ripped his smiling face away until all that remained was a cold and lonely silence. The steed had been running for an unknown period of time when Xiao Qiye suddenly tumbled off it. He crashed heavily into the pile of snow and remained there with his head lowered for a moment. The horse raised its hooves and trotted around him before it lowered its head to nudge him. The gerfalcon remained perched on the back of the horse and tilted its head to look askance at him. Xiao Qiye endured it for a moment, then propped himself up with his arms and vomited. After a long time, he stood up and leaned against the wall. The bone thumb ring on his thumb was a little large and had fallen off somewhere. He searched for it in the snow, but then he heard someone whispering a question a short distance away. "Who's there?" Xiao Qiye ignored him. The Imperial Army squad commander felt for his lantern to shine at him and said, "How dare you? Your Excellency." Xiao Qiye turned his head and asked, "Do you know me?" The Imperial Army squad commander shook his head honestly. "I don't know which of the lords you are. I'm your big brother." Xiao Qiye cast away the dirted cloak and lowered his eyes to continue looking for the thumb ring. He cussed in irritation under his breath and said, "Give me the lantern. You can scram." The Imperial Army squad commander cautiously came nearer and said, "You are second young Master Xiao, right? We have just received the order. It's still dark, and it's too early for an investigation. It should be fine if you come again tomorrow." Xiao Qiye held out his hand and the Imperial Army squad commander handed the lantern over to him. Xiao Qiye asked, "What is this place?" The Imperial Army squad commander respectfully replied, "The perimeter of Chu capital, the Temple of Penitence." Xiao Qiye said, "You may leave." The squad commander retreated and was about to leave when he heard Xiao Qiye speak. "Is Shenzhequan here? Beyond this wall?" "That's right." The squad commander was getting more and more apprehensive. "He's detained in. Get him to come out." The stunned squad commander hastened to say, "That wouldn't do. Even if you are the viceroy, you can't do that. His Majesty the Emperor strictly commanded." Xiao Qiye lifted the lantern and said, "I have the final say in the Imperial Army." The squad commander said tentatively, "Don't kill. I'm fucking telling him to come out and sing a tune for me." Xiao Qiye flung the lantern aside suddenly. The light swiftly went out. He stood in the darkness, his eyes were glinting maliciously. End chapter. Notes. Jinden Festival is also known as Spring Festival, which celebrates the start of the new year from the first day of the first month in the lunar calendar. 2. Ice respect or paying respect with ice during summer is one of the objectionable practices of 3 respects during the Qing dynasty, along with coal respect and departure respect. Ice respect refers to the bribe money officials outside the capital used to bribe the officials in the capital during summertime. 3. Taiji is an ancient Chinese exercise or form of martial art that involves slow, circular movements. To play Taiji with someone is to keep passing the buck around. 4. Tai Shang Lao Jun or the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord is a deity in Taoism. It's believed that Laozi, who authored the classic Tao Te Ching, is the incarnation of Tai Shang Lao Jun.